this week, guess what? The 802 is actually, you know what? We're taking trips, honey. That coach is getting on a boat and a plane, and we're going places because we have now take it to the north. Where are we, Danielle?
Are you saying international?
Yeah.
Are we saying international travel?
Yes, we are.
Are we saying appropriately social distance international travel with people
ma'am.
who don't look exactly like us? Is that
Yes,
what we're
ma'am.
saying this week? Are we taking a little trip over the Atlantic to a little place called Canada this week?
Yes,
I think
we are.
I think we are. See what we do for you listeners. See
I
where
know.
we go for you listeners. We are
Right.
pulling people out of different countries, different continents, international fish. Get into it. So this week, our guest on the 802 is Matkai Burmaster. He is an actor, director, and co-founder of the streaming service Fearless, which is @WatchFearless on Instagram and Twitter. Fearless prides itself on being the home to inclusive movies and shows that includes women, LGBTQ, disabilities, POC, QPOC, Indigenous shows and movies. This mandate is also a platform for independent films to get noticed where they might have otherwise not been seen.
And it also, they showcase stories that tells every voice. You could watch movies and short films that celebrate the things that make us different, told by creators with something to say. So when we're back from the break, you'll be meeting the wonderful Matkai Burmaster. Da-da-da-da. I've been trying to pronounce your name for the past week properly, and if I get it wrong, I will kick myself. Please tell me it's Matkai.
It is.
Oh, thank fuck for that. I literally was like, please don't get this wrong, because I have I have a terrible history of saying shit wrong on this podcast every single fucking week.
He really does.
you know, the funny thing is, though, is Europeans always say my name right. It's the North Americans that always say it wrong.
Oh my god. I was making sure. I was like, please tell me it's Matkai, because if it isn't, I will be really upset. Yay. So you know what? That deserves, like, you know what, Dan, if you could just like intro like a little like sound like a klaxon here that I've done something right this week, that would be amazing. Because I'm always getting shit wrong.
I'll get on the deck. We'll see what sounds we can pull out.
Well, Matkai, it's been a pleasure to finally get to speak to you, because I've been we have been emailing each other for the past couple of weeks back and forth, and we finally have a podcast, and it's nice because we have our first international guest, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's why when I talked to you originally, I wasn't sure if you were even interested in an international guest, because it seemed like you were kind of a local podcast.
No, you know what? If we're getting it, we're going to take it anywhere we get it.
There you go. Yeah. Good.
Anyway, welcome to the 802. We're really happy to have you here. We're just going to ask you a few questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
And have a good old time.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
So I am very intrigued, because I only know what I know about you from like your Instagram and Twitter. But tell me about Matkai. Tell me how you've been through lockdown. Tell me how is life over in Canada.
Well, I've experienced the lockdown life in both Canada and the States because I was living in New York City prior to this. And I just moved back to Toronto just in April. And so, I mean, it's not been so bad. I mean, it was definitely worse in New York City, but I was in the thick of it, right, when it was the worst. So, it hasn't been too bad. I don't have much to complain about, really. I mean, I've been keeping safe. I work from home all the time anyway, so, didn't change much for me. Of course, my husband's now working at home with me, and normally he works at the office, so that's a bit of an adjustment, but it's not so bad.
Well, you haven't killed each other yet, and it's been a couple months, so I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're doing pretty
exactly.
Well. So you have a streaming app called Fearless that tend to showcase LGBTQ plus content. Tell us more about Fearless and how it works.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it sounds better when you say it. And I'm sure your listeners are enjoying my accent because they're probably not used to that. So there you go.
Yeah.
So I created Fearless with Deanna Widmeyer, who I went to film school with. Mm-hmm. And we just wanted to make an app that was about inclusivity. So we showcase female, LGBTQ, BIPOC, people with disabilities, mental health. Basically anything that Hollywood isn't showing enough of, we're going to show more of it. And so that's basically the goal. We've been around for 3.5 years now. And we actually just came out with a new app update yesterday. So we just did a big redesign and stuff, and it just went live in the App Store yesterday. So it's kind of an exciting time right now.
Amazing. That's pretty good. Well, which is really interesting because I'm also a film student and I'm also working on an app for my final year, which is really awesome because we've been asked to produce just like an university app that explains like stuff. So you've already did it when we're like talking about it in university. So look at that, game changer.
There you go.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna steal your idea. It's fine. You had it first.
Well, listen, you know, in the world you can either steal ideas or you can collaborate and work together on things. And I choose the work together mode because, you know, otherwise you just end up with so many enemies.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need that right now, especially as queer creatives. We just need to. And I've realized this since me and Dan have started this podcast. So we're a few episodes in, and we just crossed our 10 episodes, and we realized that more and more queer creatives do like to work with each other, and that's good. And especially when you're fairly new like us, you need to make long lasting friendships from the get go. So why break the bonds from early? So 100%, I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, every time you collaborate with someone, I mean, you're going to gain part of their audience, they're going to gain part of yours. And so, I mean, I just see upside. I don't see a lot of downside in that.
Good. So my second question...
I'm just jumping in before we go into this, because, Nick, you mentioned making friends, and I've been very vocal on the need to make at least one enemy. So I just want to put it out there that my aim for this podcast is to make my nemesis. I need to know who they are. I want to know why they hate me so much, and I want them to actively root against my success. So if you're out there, please show yourself.
The thing is you will get many over the years, and some will stick around and some won't. I mean, I literally posted something on Instagram that was like a body positivity post, saying, you know, you don't need abs to be sexy. And I think it's a great post. It's an important message. And somebody just, you know, read me to filth in the comments and said, "You have abs though. How dare you?" You know, and it's like, you know what? I have an average body. I have what you would call a dad bod maybe. And that's what most people have, is an average body. Most people don't have a six pack like a superhero or something. You know, they train for months to get that sort of body. And once the movie's over, they don't have that anymore.
But, you know, hey, dad bods are the in thing, especially after quarantine. Like, if you don't have a dad bod, you clearly didn't live life properly.
This was my thought. So when the gym reopened and I went in and I was just looking around and I was like, I thought we all had a silent agreement that during this 4 to 5 months, we weren't all going to maintain this summer was over. We weren't all going to do it. Like, where's the weight gain? Why are you all still in shape? Why have I been the only one who's been eating biscuits every day? And then I was like, well, screw it. I'm just going to go home and eat more biscuits.
I mean, that sounds like a good plan. I'm okay with that idea.
To be fair, I have done lockdown completely different. So I have probably had a pizza every other night from Domino's. And sadly, my credit card took a massive hit. And it is what it is. I survived and I'm now 10 times fatter. So, hey.
Don't put Domino's on the credit card. You put that on the debit.
No.
That comes out straight of the account. Credit card is for when you're buying things you know you shouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't be buying pizza every other night. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
So my other question to you, Matkai, is,
of course.
You know, like, in today's world, do you think the LGBTQ plus community is represented in like mainstream media, television, like maybe Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus? Do you think we have still a lot of work to do?
Tons. Yeah. I mean, like, even Disney just made a series called Love, Victor, which is based off the Love, Simon movie.
Yes, I've heard.
And it was supposed to be on Disney Plus, and they decided at the last minute that they were going to move it to Hulu, which they own both. So, you know, on the surface, you think, oh, it's not a big deal. But it kind of is a big deal, because what they're kind of saying is that they don't consider LGBTQ people as family friendly. And that's kind of a problem.
I tend to realize that sometimes when I'm like looking through like Amazon and Netflix and stuff, and you look under the LGBTQ plus type like section for films, it's always like it's always such a random mix. And I think to yourself, I'm sure there's more to this out there that we're not being supplied. So I think you having Fearless is a great platform for the stuff that we don't see. So I have to like congratulate that. I have to like give you credit for that because there's a lot of so this is just my from my point of view, because as a film student I tend to not see a lot of films that help people come out and stuff like that, and I totally think we have a lot to do, but I didn't even know about this until now, about this whole Love Simon thing from moving from Disney Plus to Hulu, and that's such I think it's a bit of a kick to the creative side of films when it comes to LGBTQ plus our community, because it's because a lot of people in the UK, we don't have Hulu. I don't think so. I know we have Disney Plus, so that would have been great to have the kids growing up that wanted to feel like they have something to watch on television that was supplied for them, and now that they don't have it, that really is it kind of
it was likely broadcast on another network that you have in the UK or another streaming service. They tend to do that with the agreements. We don't have Hulu in Canada either, but obviously we're close enough to the States that we sort of, I'm up on what happens there. But at the end of the day, I mean, yes, we need more of the content, but also I think that, the big networks make a big deal out of things that are not a big deal. Mm-hmm. For example, when they had that character in the animated film Onward who was queer, mm-hmm. the character was so minor. The queerness of it was so minor, and it was clear that it could easily be edited out, in an international version, based on which country they're putting it in. Maybe a country doesn't like LGBT, content as much. They're going to just edit that portion out, and you're not even going to know. So they make a big deal out of things that are so minute. And they try to make it seem like, oh, we're doing amazing things. But it's not enough. And the truth is, I mean, I remember when I was in high school, and the thing they were saying was that Disney doesn't do LGBT content because it's not friendly. Back then, they were openly admitting that. So, at least they don't say those things anymore. But, I mean, they kind of do the same thing just without saying it, Yeah.
I'm going to take it over to Dan because I'm sure he has more questions that I'm burning to ask you.
Yeah, so I wanted to, thinking about sort of queer media and queer film, I wanted to see if you're okay to, number one, throw some recommendations at us if we're looking for a particular type of thing to watch, anything that you suggest. And secondly, I want to get your thoughts on some sort of queer media stereotypes and why they exist, which I think is the fun one. So I'm going to start with that, if that's okay.
Queer media stereotypes?
Yeah. So the first one I always think of is in lots of lesbian films or lesbian front films, why does somebody always die at the end?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I think that, I think that in a lot of queer films are based on pain because that's what we know to be important to us. And I think that when you don't have a lot of representation, you're going to go to the stories that are based on pain or hatred or those types of elements that are the most visceral first,
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Yeah, I see that as well. So if you're looking for sort of something that's more joyful, something that's going to make you laugh, make you smile, do you have any sort of recommendations or anything that you've seen recently that you think people would like to know about and like to watch?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about, lesbian content in particular, then certainly the films of Michelle Ellen. Michelle Ellen made a series of 3 films. 2 of the 3 are on Fearless, actually, and they're available elsewhere as well. But Michelle Ellen has done exactly that, has made films that are queer content that are just fun and lighthearted and, a little bit campy. It's fun. And that kind of happens with queer content, too. It's kind of either campy or it's like super serious and everyone's dying, It's really the extremes.
Yeah, there's no gray area.
And with the gay content, I mean, there's a third category called everyone is shirtless the whole movie.
I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Well, there's a series on Fearless called Boys Town, and we were scrubbing. Sometimes we scrub through the titles to find screenshots, or we make GIFs and that sort of thing. And as one of our editors was scrubbing through, he said, "I literally cannot find a scene in this entire show through 2 full seasons where there's not a shirtless guy in every scene." And it's true. There really was. Yeah. But, that's what that show is, right? So, yeah, I think these stereotypes happen a lot. And I think it's also we notice them a lot because there's not enough content. If there was more, then it'd be better.
I think this also, like, the lack of content is something that obviously is, hopefully is changing with, obviously, like, nearly all streaming services having some sort of LGBT area that you can find, or Fearless existing, the issues with Disney notwithstanding. My second stereotype, and this is something I have an argument with a lot of my friends about quite often and loudly, particularly when we were out at restaurants, was that a lot of, from what I see, sort of gay stories traditionally seem to focus on sort of a young, kind of confused kid who was like at the beginning of their journey falling for sort of an older man. So the one thing of is like you had in the UK, you had Queer as Folk, which sort of had that relationship, and then obviously the sort of big one is Call Me By Your Name, that sort of has that relationship. Why does that pop up so much in sort of like queer media? And are there any sort of like alternative stories that you can think of where, I don't know, potentially it's just like 2 people of a similar age or 2 older people, or sort of, are there any sort of alternative sort of gay stories that we could be looking at that are sort of going underappreciated?
I think that those stories probably happen because it's real life. And I think also it happens because sometimes those are older filmmakers who are writing about their own experiences. And perhaps, when they were younger, there might have been a lot more people in the closet and stuff. So they might have been with older men because of that. That could be a reason. Once again, I'm not an expert, I'm just spitballing. When you mention, is there any great films with people that are of a similar age? I mean, yes, there's tons. I mean, there's tons of films, on Fearless and literally everywhere else, especially short films, that, are kids in high school or college age or that sort of idea, figuring out their sexuality or experimenting, etc. One that I particularly enjoy is called Dare. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
I believe there's 3 incarnations of it. There's kind of the original short film, and then they did a bit of a remake that was maybe elaborated, and then just recently they did another version of it. It's pretty interesting. It's about experimentation and discovering your sexuality, and I think they're in college, university.
Yeah, I'll definitely do some digging and see, because it sounds like something I'll be into as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, last one. Why are there so many white people?
That's a problem. That's a big problem. And the answer is racism. No, but it really is. I mean, it really, really, really is. There's systemic racism that's running underneath the entertainment industry in general, not just with queer films, but with all content in general. And it's a huge problem. In real life, you don't just have white people everywhere. You have diversity. It's mixed. Mm-hmm. There are some places in the world where a certain race may, be predominant. However, if we're making movies and shows to represent real life, we should have every race. Well, maybe not every race and everything, but they should be diverse. And I think it's a level of systemic racism that runs under everything. And, it's based off long-standing, when the film industry started, at that point, there was, at that point, let's be real, there was like rampant racism at that time.
Yeah.
And so I think old habits die hard, and the film industry has never really committed to making more diverse projects. So, and that's something we tackle with Fearless as well. We are always on the lookout for content that has a lot of diversity in it. That's important to us. But even with our best efforts, still there's more white people on Fearless than anything else.
Yeah.
Even though we're conscious of it and we're really trying to get more diverse content. Unfortunately, there's a lot of content being made with white people. And I don't know what the solution is, but I hope that, the work that we're doing at Fearless is helping nudge in the right direction at least.
That's good.
I think it's always a bit interesting, especially just when you look about like what's almost like celebrated as sort of like a pinnacle of queer media. I always think about Moonlight and how like Moonlight obviously won the Oscar for Best Picture. I went to see it. It was like this gorgeous story of this just one guy as he grows and sort of struggles with his own identity and sort of coping with understanding his masculinity in a world that wants him to be a certain way. And like Moonlight is a queer story that often doesn't seem like it's even been like accepted as part of like the narrative of queer media. Obviously, because it is, I think, well, it's black fronted. It exists within that realm, and I think that's kind of like just it's part of the issue as well. Is that like queer media is already pushed to the side, and within that group, we sort of continually, rather than like working together to fight to create changes, it's almost like that those problems are present there as well. So it's great to hear that like Fearless is doing work to make sure that there are diverse stories being told on the platform and that people can see it, and like understanding that sort of queer media isn't just like white people telling white stories for white audiences. Do you have any sort of recommendations if we're looking for sort of diverse stories or stories from different backgrounds, what we should be watching and looking out for?
I think an excellent example of that is a series called Giving Me Life. The true title is Giving Me Life in the Land of the Dead Ass. It's a very long title. That one's on Fearless as well. The reason why I just think it's a stellar option for people to check out is because it's about intersectionality, and it's a group of friends living in New York City. It features multiple sexual orientations, and it features Black and Latinx perspectives of people who live in New York City. So I think it's really interesting, and it's really well done. And it also has a bit of an interesting angle because in every episode, you follow a different one of the characters from the friend group. So there's a bit of a element of, usually when you watch something, there's sort of a lead character and they're always the lead. Whereas this, it's sort of like you get to change who the lead is based on which story is being told. And I think that's an interesting take as well.
Awesome. So my last question to you is, Matkai, is what do we expect from you as in the future as well as Fearless? What should we look out for? Because I'll be following you on the socials now to see what you get up to. So you now have a fan.
No, only one fan. That's okay.
only fans, right? Only fans.
Oh, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Nope. I know a lot of people who do OnlyFans, and honestly, all the power to you. It's just not for me. But I'm like sex positive and stuff. I think there's no problem if someone wants to do that, for sure. It's a great way to make money. It's not for me, but I respect people for doing it, for sure.
Do you know what's a great idea? Imagine having an OnlyFans where you just review films. That could work, right?
I think no one would subscribe.
Hey, we could pretend.
Subscribe if you were reviewing films naked.
Oh,
actually, that's you're probably right.
That's a niche.
I think it's not going to be me who does that, but maybe one of your listeners who's listening who wants to steal the idea. You're more than welcome. I won't come chasing you down for royalties later.
No.
Although I didn't really think of it. You thought of it. So
True.
So you can collect your royalties if you want to collect them. Yeah, I mean, I started out as a filmmaker, and I still am one. Obviously, I work full time running Fearless and such. Yeah. However, I also make films. So I have one project coming up, which is called New Sex Ed. It's already filmed. We filmed it before all the COVID stuff happened.
Yeah.
So it's being edited right now, and that will come out. That actually is not really a entertainment piece as much as it is an education piece. So we basically made a sex ed program, you could say, that was a little bit more fun than what they're showing in the schools. My sister's a teacher, so she tells me, she's like, this material, it's outdated. Like, the videos we're supposed to watch with these kids, like, they're old, and the kids are laughing at them, Like, these are VHSs, like, it's old stuff. Yeah. So we wanted to make a program that, we'd let the schools use for free. Yeah. And it's a sex ed program that highlights some of the topics that aren't being covered as much. Yeah. So we talk about consent, we talk about gender identity, we talk about, also like types of relationships, monogamous versus open relationship versus polyamory and all that, because the truth is that people are trying to say, oh, well, teens don't need to learn about this stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they're learning about it anyway. They're going to teach themselves, and it's better that they get the correct information and be well-informed people. Mm-hmm. So that's what we were working on, and that will come out in the fall. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what? It's good to see you guys working so hard and giving back to the community. I think is really, really important. Not just the LGBTQ community, just young kids and stuff. And education is always good. And I think you're doing a great job. So well done to you guys. Well done.
I think it's completely irresponsible. And if you tell kids about sex, they're going to start having it and then not have babies. And then who's going to look after all the babies? I think you are contributing actively to there being too many babies from 13.
Too many babies.
And actually, I think after this interview, you need to go and have a look at your activities, and you need to find Jesus. This is all a joke, by the way.
Yes, I get that. But I mean, you tell jokes very convincingly. No. I got you.
No, it's good.
But I was just gonna say that, like, what you were mentioning about doing content for teens and supporting that element. That's always something that's been very important to me. I made another series called It's Complicated, which is about two guys in high school, and they're coming out and trying to figure out their sexuality and such. And this all came from the first business that I ran. So Fearless is not the first thing I've done. When I was in high school, I started up a summer drama camp for kids and teens. Mm-hmm. And so I ran that for a few years, and that was my first business. And I loved it. It was great. I loved teaching the kids. We did little plays and such for the parents at the end, It was a great experience. So I've always had a soft spot for kids and teens.
We forgot to ask you a question as you got on the 802, which this is my oversight. I meant to ask just to make sure that the service is running correctly. Did you, once you arrived on the 802, did you get your complimentary peanuts?
I didn't get my complimentary peanuts, and I'd like to speak to a manager immediately.
You didn't. Okay. This is how many guests in a row now, Nick?
Right.
How many guests in a row?
You could blame Dan because he's the Karen of this friendship group. So Dan, Karen,
how many
Paddington.
Guests in a row do we have to have come on the coach and not receive their complimentary peanuts?
Listen to me, Matkai. Blame Karen Monroe. She's the one on the other end of this phone line. If you want to get her email, it's she'saho@ho.com/the802.
Yeah. Okay. Because email addresses now have slashes in them.
Yeah, I know. That was going to be my question.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. But you know what, Matkai, It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, buddy.
Oh, it's been a pleasure being on.
Where can the people find you and the Fearless group?
You can download Fearless on iOS or Android, and then you can, if you want to follow Fearless, we're at Watch Fearless on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, if anyone still uses that. Yeah. And if you want to follow me, I'm just at Matkai Burmaster on Instagram and Twitter are the big ones. I'm on TikTok too, if anyone's, if that tickles your fancy.
I love a good TikTok me. I am obsessed.
There you go.
Obsessed. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to seeing more content on Fearless, and we hopefully we'd like to have you back sometimes. Let's know how you get on.
Yeah.
Maybe one day the 802 might just end up in Canada, or we'll do this live. Who knows?
Who knows? And, maybe your listeners are going to say, we need more Canadian because we just love the accent,
Yes,
Maybe it's really sexy to, I don't know, your listeners, if you mostly have UK listeners.
Yeah, they're going to be, they're being entertained. They're being having their boots filled this week with great content, as per usual. Go. Oh, wow. So that was really freaking cool and entertaining. Look at us crossing the Atlantic via... Listen, Virgin. Listen, what's his name? Richard Branson. If you're listening, can you just throw some dollars over the 802 so we could fly to Canada and do this live? Because that'd be amazing. Social distance, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we went to Canada for that. We're around the globe. We got some interesting guests lined up from around the world for you guys.
Amazing.
So, got to let us know what you want to do. Again, what I want to hear is I want to go to that inbox. I want to go to the 802 podcast@gmail.com. I want to do it in an Essex accent for some reason. And I want to see some mess in the inbox. So if you ain't sending in some mess for the show next week, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't send it to me, we can't read it.
True.
So girls,
give us the mess, honey.
The 802 podcast@gmail.com. I know you got a messy story or two that you want to hear. Maybe if you send us in a few, we'll give you a few of ours. Okay?
Exactly.
A little mess from the past. You'll love it.
Yeah, we love mess.
The accent was now. I'm going to stop it. So yeah, guys, for the new segment, please send us an email at the 802 podcast@gmail.com. I went a little Essex again. I don't know why.
I know. I feel like the sounds like this is changing. It's different. You're going to be... I feel like next week I'm going to be joined from Jesse from Little Mix. I feel like you're going down that road right now.
Could you imagine if you turn up and it was Jesse from Little Mix?
Scream.
That would be immense, actually.
Oh, it would be amazing. You know what? I would love...
management.
Yes. Let's contact Jesse.
Nick, do the socials, girl. Let's get out of here.
So so you could find the 802 podcast on Instagram at the 802 podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at the 802 podcast as well. You can find me, nk.charles, on Instagram and _Nick Charles on Twitter. You can find Daniel over at
Dan James LDN on Instagram, Dan James LDN on Twitter. If you've got any negative feedback that you want to send me about the show, please just send it to, let's say, at Dua Lipa. I think she'd be interested. I think she'd want to know.
I will come to London and I will drag you out of the house right now into the streets. Stop your shit. Leave. Let me stand in peace.
I'm letting you stand. I think she would be interested in hearing the listeners' thoughts.
You are a mess. But you know what, guys? Thank you again for listening to the 802. It's been another great week, another great content coming your way. Two queer creative boys just living their best life, telling you how it is, giving you the ride of your life every week. And we're very glad you are here to be entertained, mesmerized, and just get in the mess. Email us. Tell us your stories.
Email us. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Until then, ta-ta.
Bye. Hope you enjoyed your journey.